Hi. Okay, so I'm back and I wanted to talk about record sources. And so you should have already been familiar with record sources for forms when it comes to having it be either a table or a query that you build. What I want to show you today is about, I can review those other topics, of course, but then I want to move on and I want to show you about record sources that you build inside of a form and then that becomes an SQL statement. Okay, so I'm gonna move me to the side like I always do and pull me down here so that I can see better. All right, so this is the ugly form that you may have seen me use in the other video or else in your own supplemental activity. And so I am currently in design view of this particular FRM STI student contact dash SC form. Okay, so if you go over here to the property sheet, you'll see that form is identified here. And as a result, right here, it has the property record source, which is the table STI student contact dash SC. Okay. And so you can see the record source under the data tab or else under the all tab, either way. Okay. And so you can have, again, a record source that's just a table, or you can go and create a query and then type that query name in here. And so those are two ways to have record sources or for your form. Now let's just go back and review that the record source is from where the data is being pulled. Okay, so if you have your record source be a query, remember that queries are always based on tables. So ultimately, data that's typed into a form is recorded in a table. So don't get confused. Just because you type the data into a form, it will be reflected in the table. And when you type the data into a table, you will see it in a form if the form is linked to that table. Okay, so I'm going to show you for how to build a query now, and I am going to first do it where this table name is already here. So I have this table name here, and I have this little button right here, and this little button has three little dots on it. And if you don't have your glasses on and you're old like me, then you probably can't see those three little dots without your glasses. But anyway, okay, so you click on it, and the first thing that it says is you invoke the query builder on a table. Do you want to create a query based on the table? And you say yes. Okay? And so for this example, what I'm going to do is I'll just bring down all my fields in the table. And so to do that, I just use this star right there. What that indicates is all of the tables, or all of the fields in the table. Apologize. Anyway, and so what I want to do now is I think that I'll sort my records according to first, last name, and then I'll sort them according to first name. And so then I'll bring those down and I'll say ascending and ascending for the sort type. And then I've already got them, actually they're already going to appear here, so I don't really need them to show up again. So I'm going to click these show buttons, I'm going to click them as off. And if I wanted to just run this to test my query to make sure that it's right before I go back to my form, I'll click on Run. And here it gives me all of the data, and you'll notice that it's sorted by last name and then first name. Okay, so I'm pretty comfortable with this query as it's the way I want it. Now you could do other things. You could make it so that it only shows for certain states or whatever, depending on your particular situation. Okay, so I'm going to click on Save, and then I'm going to click on Close. Okay, and now what I want to show you here is that now, if I make this nice and big so you can see this whole thing, now I have, for my record source, I have what's known as a select statement. It's an SQL statement. Now actually queries that you've learned about, we've learned about them from a pictorial perspective. These queries can actually be seen as SQL statements as well. And I'm going to go back into my query builder, and I'm just going to show you that. Okay, so I'm in my query builder, and I'm going to make this property sheet small again. All right, and then I can come over here to View, and I can see SQL View. And this is the actual SQL statement. Okay, this is the pictorial perspective of the query. But this right here is the statement. This is kind of the programming language that is used for the query. So both of those are correct. Both ways of representing the query are correct. It's just different ways of seeing the same thing. Okay, so then you can click on Close. Again, we didn't make any changes, so it doesn't prompt me to save. Okay, so I showed you that way of building the query, and so for our record source. So now I'm going to take away the record source. Now, before I had a record source in there already. It was a table. And so when I went to build my record source, the table was already there as part of the query. It was already specified. But now I'm not going to identify what table I want. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the Build button again. Okay, and this time it asks me what table I want. So that's the big difference, is before I specified the table name in the record source, and so it just automatically assumed that that was the table that I wanted. This time it doesn't assume it, it asks you what table I want. So I'll click on this table right here, I'll click on Add and Close, and I'll continue to build. Oops, I double clicked on it too many times. Okay, so I'll continue to build, and you can see that I've brought down all of the fields. This star means all of the fields. I'll double click on last name. I'll double click on first name. Once again, I'll click the show buttons so that I don't get the last name and the first name twice. And then I'm going to sort them, which is something that you'll probably want to do with a lot of your queries for your forms in your final project. Okay, and so then I'll say Save, and I'll say, oh, and once again, same thing. I can come over here and do SQL View and see the representation of my query in a more programming language style. Okay. And then I can click on Close, and now once again I have that SQL statement here as my record source. So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to tell you about record sources is you can specify a table, you can specify a query that you've built outside of the form, or you can do what I just demonstrated where you can build the query inside the form. All right, thanks very much.